Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. This is Talk Tips number 37, how to actually grow a business based on what your audience wants. You might be surprised at what you find on this one. Check it out. Imagine that you go to your favorite restaurant. If you know me, you know I love Cheesecake Factory. That's where Richard and I go on our regular date night. I'm so glad that we found a place that we like to go to regularly. So you go to your favorite restaurant and you place your order. For me, I like the Thai chicken tacos, the ones that are like in a lettuce bowl right there and the chicken in there and it's got the sesame seeds on top. Super good. Imagine ordering your favorite dish and then something else comes out. It's completely different. If I had ordered these amazing little tacos and they brought me like steak and mashed potatoes, they could be like, oh my gosh, these steak and mashed potatoes are so good. I know that we put the A1 sauce on there and we got the best potatoes from Idaho and we made the best gravy from our own blah, 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 blah. And they're telling me all these amazing benefits of the steak and mashed potatoes. And I'm sitting there like, where's my tacos? This is not what I ordered. If you start a business, the same thing can happen to your clients. Here's why. When you start a business, you come to the table with all of these levels of expertise, all of these things that you're good at. You're good at this, you're good at this, you enjoy doing this. This is why you started a business in the first place, because you have some level of credibility, you have some level of expertise, and you're bringing it to the table. And you're like, oh my gosh, so there's people that can benefit from this. And I think I can make money doing this. It's why we're becoming entrepreneurs, right? Maybe on top of that, you're feeling the stress and strain of working a 9 to 5 and requesting your time from somebody else, which is the craziest feeling in the world. I don't know about you, but I was chafing underneath that. And then you start this other company, you've got all these great ideas. Maybe you even start recording videos and you start creating e-courses and you start hosting webinars, you start producing content, and no bites. Nobody wants it. Here's what's happening. You are giving your audience something that's of value, but it's not what your audience wants. So how do you avoid this? Well, I'm going to share a lot of principles with you from Jeff Walker's book, Launch. There's going to be a link to it in the show notes of this video because I love this book. I recommend it to everybody that's launching products or even launching a business or even wants to do that. The coolest part about figuring this out is it turns you from this wannabe entrepreneur into someone that can have a thriving business even before your follower count is high, like in the millions. You don't have to have millions of followers to serve the right people. So here's how you do it. Number one, you've got to poll the audience, P-O-L-L. Ask your audience what they want. Before you do that, you really got to define your expertise, but I'm going to assume that you're coming to the table with some level of expertise or brilliance that you have accrued some credibility in. You're coming to the table with that. Now, I need to ask my audience what their pain point is. Ask what their hurdles are. So I'm constantly doing this still. I'm always polling my audience. I can't think of a world where I'm not interviewing my audience and seeing what they need. And you can do this today. In fact, I was just on the phone with one of our members of our community yesterday on a Zoom call, and he was showing me all the really cool things that he could do with tech and with engaging webinars. And I asked him, what's causing you to be invisible? And the number one response that he gave me is that nobody knows what I do. And I said, well, how do we fix that? I can't just throw steak and potatoes at them and then hope that they want it. I need to ask the audience exactly what they want. Think about it. When you go to a restaurant, what's the first thing that you do after you sit down? You're going to open up the menu and you're going to think about, what do I want? And rewind. Think about even before you went out to eat, when you're getting ready, you've got something in your mind. I could really go for this. I could really go for a meal that's served to me, even if you're not specific with the kind of meal you want to order. But I want something. That's why I left the house. I got in my car. I drove to a restaurant because I want something. Now I need to get clear on what I want. Now that I've got the menu in my hand, the server is not going to come to the table with my entree. They're going to come with bread, but they're not going to come to the table with my entree because they don't know what I want. You as a business owner, follow suit. Don't start creating courses, filming materials, or charging for things if you don't know if it's what your audience wants or not. You've got to find out. So here's your homework assignment right now. I want you to go on social media with your expertise in the back of your mind and ask your audience where they're struggling with it. Let me give you a couple of examples. I've got one of my members that helps people get healthier. So she's going to ask the audience, What is the hardest part about wintertime and illness? That could be one thing. Or how long have you been dealing with this headache? She's going to speak to not only what her audience wants, but something that she can fix, right? So if I'm in the health and fitness industry, I'm going to go out and ask my audience, if I could wave a magic wand today, how many pounds would you want to lose? If I go out into my audience and I'm an expert in public speaking, I'm going to say, how many stages did you want to get on this year? And how many did you actually get on? How much revenue did you want to make with your company this year versus how much did you make? What's the number one bottleneck in building your business right now? How many people do you have on your email list? And if you don't know what an email list is, leave a comment below. If I'm in the, what's another industry? If I'm in the art industry and I make murals for people, right? You say, what's been the biggest holdback for you in actually putting paint on your canvas? Why aren't you creating art? Is it because you think you have to be a starving artist and you don't feel like there's a career in art? Let me show you why that's wrong. So you're going to ask your audience with your expertise in mind, what is the number one thing if you could wave a magic wand and get it fixed right now? What would it be? And then you're going to learn about your audience. And then you're going to find more questions that you can ask as follow-ups based on their responses and dig and interview and understand. And only then do you start creating solutions, because your job is to not carve a hole in the marketplace and then fill it. Your job is to find the existing holes in the marketplace and then create solutions based on your level of expertise. In fact, every time I start a Zoom call, I run multiple Zoom calls every week. I think I have 5 or 6 different Zoom meetings that I host for my members and members of other communities every single week. Before I lean into my content, before I have my PowerPoint displayed on the screen, I ask my audience, what do you hope to get out of our time together today? Ask Richard every time he's been on a call, and any call I've been on, whether it's for myself or somebody else. In fact, I do this on stage as well. I open up entire events based on this. What do you hope to get out of your time here? And then I make them measure it. If people say, oh, I want more financial freedom, I say, how will you know when you've gotten it? If people say, I want more connections, how will you know when you've gotten it? A lot of times people will come to the event with the hope of a feeling. And then what I do is I break down that feeling into what can you do before the hour is over? What can you do before the end of the event? If you want more connections, if you want to network with more people, what can you do before the end of the event? Well, you can get 5 phone numbers. Well, if you want to get on more stages, what can you do before the event? First, we need to know how many. I want 10 more stages before the end of the event. Now I know how to cater my content, which means a lot of times, and you'll do this when you're super advanced as a speaker, you will throw your PowerPoint out. You will not even share what you prepared, because what you prepared is not what the audience needs. You prepared steak and potatoes, but the audience came for Thai tacos. And if you can be that person, if you can say, screw what I've prepared, I'm here to show up and serve you, that's when you have a thriving business. When you listen to the feedback of your audience, not only in the social media posts that you've created, but also live when they come to the room, when they're in your space, ask, what did you come here for? And what do you need? Because if I can't provide it for you, I'm sure as heck going to find a resource that can. And that's when you build that know, like, and trust factor. And that's when you have a thriving business. I know it sounds overly simple, but any business that you can possibly think of was built on solving problems. So I want to know from you. You hopped on this podcast. If you're listening, you have completed this episode of this podcast. I want to know from you specifically, what do you need next in order to get to your goal? The more powerful your questions are crafted, the faster your results are going to get to you. So if your goal is to speak on stage, if your goal is to bring in revenue to your business, if your goal is to have a really high functioning CRM behind you that operates while you're sleeping, that's where we come in and that's where we help. And I want to know what you feel like you need the most help with. So I want you to text me. If you're driving right now and you're listening to this, when you stop and get to your destination, go back and re-listen to the last minute of this episode so you can get my phone number. It's in the comments too, 801-509-5495. And I want you to text me your most powerful question. And the question, you know, if you had the answer to it, you would 10x your income. I want to hear it from you. And because I want to show up and serve you, I'll record an episode especially for you when I get your powerful questions. So text that number, 801-509-5495, and ask the questions. You can get the answer that will take your results to the next level. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you learned something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have this whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions because you are who I am here for. So last thing is I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you've got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people. And you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.